Hello and welcome back to the YouTube channel of Bethel Evangelical Free Church Hanley. I'm Pastor Gervais Chun. This is another Shropshire church. This is one of the great churches of Shropshire. This is the Church of St John the Baptist, Kinlet. It has Norman origins. What we see here today is mostly of the 14th, 15th century. It's been restored, of course, by the Victorians. The main Norman survival is the arcades of the two aisles. Just checking for a moment I was correct, and they've both got normal arcades. They do. This is a church that is now in the middle of nowhere. It's in the, or rather in the middle of the park, near the old mansion here, which last time I looked was being used as a school. It's a building that therefore has a long connection with the big house. There used to be a village here, but it all got moved to the main road to make the park much prettier for the big house family's views, because all these peasants' hovels and cottages, and of course, to be fair, what they rebuilt would have been a better quality than what was replaced. We'll have a look around and see the inside of this building, its various features. It's a little bit bare today because of, again, Victorian restoration, but there's some very interesting things to be seen if you know where to look, which I do. So we are now inside at Kinlet, and this is at the west end, of course. Now behind me is the tower, and in the tower is the organ. A nice big organ. There's no maker's plate on it, but it's a good organ case. There's the door into the south porch. There's a nice, decent stone pulpit. It's one that, and the font, although Victorian, is imitating the Norman. The panelling around the walls shows every sign of having originally been part of the box pews. Very often they were taken out, as we've seen, and they would then be converted into panelling for the walls. Norman arcades here, and of course the roof and even the clerestory, which is timber clerestory, is Victorian. There is a rather striking alabaster eagle lectern. They're normally brass, but this one's alabaster, and why not, after all? Again, big house family, you've got a fair amount of freedom here. Here we have Sir William Child's memorial. He died in 1678, and below we have evidence of a medieval side chapel. You've got a piscina. Lieutenant William Baldwin Child Pemberton, Lieutenant of the 18th Hussars, attached to the 9th Hussars, mortally wounded at Vimy Ridge, April the 13th, 1917, died that day at Barlin Hospital, aged 21. William Shakespeare, Child Pemberton. And then we've got this whacking great memorial. This is to do with the Blount family, among other things. So this is the body of Sir George Blount, Knight. And we have up here, this is his memorial. You see, this is a very Protestant memorial. He's got his Bible open, or his prayer book, and they're kneeling in prayer. There he is with his wife, and she's got her prayer book hanging on her belt, basically. 1584, the date is very impressive. It would have originally all been painted to imitate life. And you can just see here that the daughter, she's still got her painted cloak. The lad has this rather disturbing skull, but the skull indicates he predeceased his father, so he's already dead. She's got her dog there, and again you can just see some traces of colour. This idea that we have that these would all have been alabaster as we see them now is just not true. Actually, they'd have been painted with just a few parts left alabaster, but weathering and other things through time has left them like this. Now below we have an older memorial. You're just about to see there, this fellow is wrapped in a shroud, and it's a shroud burial, as they're known, for obvious reasons. So down there, there's lovely big Norman columns, and then we pass into the chancel, the choir area here, and again you've got these wonderful memorials. Big house, and obviously big house has a very long connection here, and more members of the, so if we get various members of the Child family, and they're all very much, you can date them by the styles. So you can tell here that this one is early 18th century rather. This one here is similar date, but vastly more interesting. It harks back to the late 17th century. We have here the another blount, and because the armour is very, this is 15th, late 15th, early 16th century. The armour and the hairstyle, and again, it would all have been painted originally. And you can see there she has that headdress, that gabled headdress. The men are usually in armour, the women normally in their best gowns. They've all been painted. And he's got his feet resting on a lion. You say lions don't look like that. Yes, but the artist had never seen a lion, had he? And we've got the suns there. Now, why are the shields blank? Because they've been painted. You see two suns there in their armour, then 3 more armoured suns here. And at the end we've got the arms. Now that would suggest that the daughters are on the other side, because this side would have been against something. The daughters are here, and they're again in their best dresses. So, then on the other hand, on the other side we have more medieval, slightly older medieval memorial, and again you've got, you can see the lady here with the chalice, you've got the gentleman, there's an angel there, and again, it's all been painted. You can see a little bit's been patched up there. Charles Baldwin, Child of Kinlet, late Captain of Royal Horse Guards, killed while leading the South African Light Horse in the attack on Sugarloaf Hill, now called Child's Hill in the Boer War, South Africa. All these memorials for the family, and of course this itself, the reredos, the alabaster reredos, this too is a family memorial, because it's a big house church. And all of these various people, I don't have time to go through all of them. You see here looking at the carving of particularly the folds of the women's dresses, and there you've got these very fashionable ladies in their rather revealing gowns, but again it's the period. It's a bit odd that ladies can't show their hair, but they can have these plunging necklines, but that's fashion for you, I suppose. The rood screen, of course, is Victorian. You can see how the arch actually bows outwards, but obviously there would have been a chancel screen in the Middle Ages. Again, choir stalls, his helm there, his head resting on his helm because he's a knight. And we go down then into the side chapel here, and this is where you have perhaps the most remarkable survival, because basically the Victorians hated them. Not the Victorians, basically the Reformers hated them. And it's this statue that is the remains of a Holy Trinity statue. You can't depict the Holy Trinity. The medieval artists tried to. What you've got here is an alabaster statue, and there's God the Father as a king, and of course you can see God the Son being crucified. Where's the Holy Spirit? Well, it would have been a separate dove, you see, and that's been lost. We have here double aumbry, 2 cupboards. There's a piscina here. Here's a medieval lady, and you can see nestled beside her, there's a swaddled form. So this tells us she's died in childbirth, and this is her child, and they've been buried together. Very moving sight there. We have here, I'm not quite sure who this fellow is, but this is you can see here's this Victorian cleric, very worthy gentleman. He is as well. Here we have the memorials for the 2 world wars. And mentioning the world wars, that is a spent shell case, probably used for firing practice rounds rather than the real thing, because obviously it's in England, it's not in France or Belgium. And so here we are. This is another side chapel, and obviously there would have been medieval stained glass there, and this Trinity memorial. This is the Lady Chapel, and it's been restored as a little side chapel for private devotions, but you get some little idea. Obviously the Middle Ages, the walls would have been plastered, they would have been painted, it would have been a riot of colour, and these memorials would have been painted. I know, that gentleman's going to be William Otter DD then. He was Vicar of Kinlet from 1816 to 1836 and Bishop of Chichester till his death, and there he is then. So he's the vicar who becomes the bishop of Chichester in Sussex. And there we are back down the aisle here, and to the stone pulpit, which is a reasonable approximation of medieval stone pulpits, to be fair. And there's that great big organ at the back. It is this very big, impressive church, but unfortunately, again, the walls have been scraped, which is you've had this idea that some people in the Victorian era have, oh, it's more honest to do that. Well, actually, no, it's not. It's just ugly. But that's my opinion. Opinions may differ. And there's that eagle lectern. So it's just a shadow of what would have been here in the Middle Ages, with these memorials painted, and it's even into the 16th, 17th century you'd have had texts painted on the walls, and the memorials would have been painted. And it's then just this idea comes, and it looks better if we expose the alabaster. And I suppose that's something it does, because alabaster has these wonderful veins on it, but it may look nicer, but it's not how it was originally supposed to be presented. In the east window there's a few fragments of medieval glass, again reflecting there would have been so much medieval glass here. The windows would have been glowing, basically. So that is the inside here at Kinlet, St Mary's Kinlet. Before we go outside, there's an open vestry. Now, why does this matter? Well, because we have portraits. We have portraits. So this is William Otter. Yes, that's definitely the fellow we saw, but here he is as an old man. Here is Edward George Baldwin Child, so he's from the Big House family, and he is vicar 1846 to 1890. Here is Reverend J. Case, who 1890 to 1913. He is responsible for the restoration of the church in the 1890s. Reverend George W. Murray, 1840 to 46. And where there are open vestries, you can quite often find these impressive, and here's some more modern clergy, of course. This is an impressive chap. He is William Otter. He's the son of Bishop Otter, and he's in his old age. So it can be quite interesting to look at these. Here's Dr. John Blakeway. It can be interesting to go in and look and see, oh, this is what the clergies look like. And you look at the difference in their outfit. Some of them, it's pretty much the same as anyone else would be wearing, but then we get these clerical uniforms like that. And how different, how things change over the years. So that's the inside of the vestry, the portrait gallery, the rogues gallery, you might call it. And so here we are outside at St Mary's Kinlet, and again, it's a big cruciform church. Cruciform churches are rarer than some people think, and the reason why they're rare is they're complicated. You've got to get these roofs to fit together just the right way. There are easy ways to do it, but they don't look so impressive. But this is a good, impressive building. There's a lot of money here. We saw the memorials inside. As we go around the outside again, we'll see something of the importance of this building. So let's do that. Although Norman at the core, the building has very much been altered so that its present character is largely 14th century. That's a nice solid Norman tower, but again it's had the upper part put on it, and we've got these transepts. And we'll see as we go around here how the transept, well, how the window in the chapel with that Trinity figure is obviously, as you can see on the outside of that bit that goes up there, there's a little low side window or a squint there, which is unusual. Again, I'm not sure they're going to be allowing lepers in here. And there's a separate entry to the chapel. Remember, in the Middle Ages, you could quite often have, particularly a rich place like this, you'd have multiple priests, so that you'd have 3 or 4 priests would be saying the Mass at the same time, because the idea is that the Mass is efficacious as a sacrifice. And so the more Masses, the better. This is why Martin Luther has this experience when he's in Rome and he sees these people who are trying to rush around and say as many Masses as possible, and it disturbs him. Yeah, that's part of Norman window top there, which is to do with the rebuilding. Window there, the nice clear old glass, which lets a lot of light in. If nothing else, as you see there, that's the wall of the old walled garden. The vestry, it sticks out where the north doorway is, and got that timber clerestory above that's been added, I expect. May replace an older clerestory to become unsafe, but all the old memorials and then the big house would have been beyond the walls there, and then the walled gardens. Walled gardens are usually they're about producing the needed crops, the fruit and vegetables rather for the table, rather than being about pleasure gardens, that sort of thing. And the door there firmly padlocked, because you only need one door to go in and out. Weathered memorials, table tombs. You can see part of the walls collapsed there through neglect, unfortunately. The churchyard cross was restored in the 1920s as a memorial to those who had died in the Great War. The base is original, the base is medieval, but it's the cross shaft on top that would have been broken and has now been restored. We've got this nice porch doorway here. You can see the faces are modern, blocked window there, and you also see how with the porch you get this rather busy structure, and there's not a lot in the way of light getting into the nave except for the clerestory. That's why you need a clerestory. That's why clerestories are absolutely vital. So there is the churchyard cross here at Kinlet. So that is Kinlet Church, one of the greater churches of Shropshire, one of the great churches in this area of southern Shropshire, in the Cleobury Hills, near Cleobury Mortimer and the Neans. It's an interesting building, as we've seen, and some reminder of how grand it used to be in the Middle Ages. Well, thank you for watching, and may God bless you and keep you until next time.